In today's episode of the Stay at Home Nurse podcast, we're going to answer the question, what is the stay at home nurse? Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle. Whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Stay at Home Nurse podcast. I realize that we are on episode 26, which means we are about 6 months into this podcast, and I have still never explained where the idea for the Stay at Home Nurse came from, what is the Stay at Home Nurse, and I wanted to take this time today to explain that. So first of all, when I was coming up for branding for my business, I was talking to somebody and we were just kind of throwing some ideas out there. And I had remembered a time when I felt like I had 2 personalities. I felt like I was a stay-at-home mom, and I 100% identified with being a stay-at-home mom. And I also 100% identified with being a working mom and a nurse. And the reason for that was because I was working Friday, Saturday, Sunday night shift. So I was away on the weekends, but I was with my kids all during the week. At the time, we were homeschooling, so it worked out very well for our lifestyle. But I felt like I was home with the kids all week, and we were doing school, and we were having fun and going on field trips. But then I also felt like a nurse on the weekends. So I was able to very easily segment my life into nurse and stay-at-home mom. So that's kind of where the name, the stay-at-home nurse, came about. I felt like I was a stay-at-home mom/nurse. Now, at this time, my business wasn't really a business. It was more of a side hustle. I was starting a website and I wanted it branded. I wanted it to be something fun, and I thought the stay-at-home nurse sounded fun and it sounded intriguing. My goal at the time was to work from home full-time as a case manager. And to do that, I felt like getting my certification would help me, which it did. And as I was studying, I was having trouble finding resources. So I was researching it myself, and then I was putting what I was finding on my website. And the website was sponsored by the stay-at-home nurse, who was me. Anyway, eventually I outgrew the stay-at-home nurse. Our business became more than just a book. It was now courses and resources and Facebook groups, and it was more than just about the stay-at-home nurse. And we rebranded to the Case Management Institute, which was a much better fit for what we were doing and the clientele that we were trying to attract. But I wasn't ready to let go of the stay-at-home nurse. By that time, I had become a full-time lifestyle entrepreneur, and I still felt like the stay-at-home nurse was reflective of this journey that I had gone through. It just took on a new meaning for me. And let me define lifestyle entrepreneur for you. I have my own definitions, and sometimes they don't match that's out there. But for me, a lifestyle entrepreneur meant that I had started a business, and the business that I started was one to fit my lifestyle. So instead of starting a business and then trying to work my lifestyle around it, I decided what I wanted my lifestyle to look like. I wanted to be able to live anywhere in the world. I wanted to be able to work from my home, and I wanted to be able to use my nursing credentials. And I was able to create a business based on that lifestyle that I wanted. So that's why I call myself a lifestyle entrepreneur. I realized that my nursing credentials helped me to be a stay-at-home nurse/mom, helped me to get certified and worked full-time from home, and helped me to build a business, a lifestyle business, and become a lifestyle entrepreneur. So I wanted to inspire other nurses to use their nursing credentials to support their dream lifestyle, whether that was working from home, working at the bedside, whether it was a side hustle, whether it was entrepreneurship, whether it was being able to travel, or becoming a leader in their industry. And I felt like keeping the stay-at-home nurse and just pivoting it to this new meaning was the right direction to go in. Okay, so that's why the stay-at-home nurse, and that's kind of the journey of the stay-at-home nurse. And I want to give you now a little peek into my life now. I call myself a lifestyle entrepreneur, and I created this business to fit my lifestyle. So how's that going? Well, not quite as planned. It is a journey. I don't know if we ever reach 100% where we're going. If we did, we would no longer have a journey and we wouldn't call it a journey. But it's a journey to fulfillment. It's a journey to self-actualization, if you look back at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I want to give you a little peek into what my life is like now. So there's a saying, and I'm going to mess this up, but it's that entrepreneurs are the only people that'll work 100 hours a week so that they don't have to work 40 hours a week. And that's kind of what I found. Not exactly, but kind of what I found. A lot of it is me and my personality. When I wrote the book and we had the course, we could have just stopped there and made enough money to live here in Mexico and have this beautiful life. And I actually did that for a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months. I would go to yoga class and I'd go to water aerobics class and I'd hang out at the beach and I'd hang out at the pool, but there was something missing. I just have this desire to be creating something, to be helping people, to be doing something, to be productive. So we started growing the business, and because of that, I find myself working a lot more and not having as much of the lifestyle as I would like. But again, that's my fault, and that's something that I'm going to be working on, and that's something that I will share with you the progress along the way. So right now, what does my average week or day look like? I usually wake up somewhere between 6 and 8 in the morning. I think I've mentioned before on the podcast that one of my goals is to not have to set an alarm clock. So as many days as possible, I wake up naturally with just the sun and the birds coming in through the window and waking me up naturally. I am not a fast riser, so this helps me to not be abruptly awoken by an alarm clock. I feel like I get moving and kind of wake up easier that way. I do have a beautiful view to wake up to. Usually the first thing I do is look out the window and I see the Caribbean Sea and I see the palm trees. And some days the waves are big and banging and loud, and some days it's just like it is today, where there are gentle rolling waves. And it's almost like a pond out there. And I sit and I look and I reflect about how blessed I am to get to wake up to this every day. A little bit about the community that we live in. We live in what is known as a resort community. It is in Mexico on the Yucatan Peninsula on the Caribbean Sea. And it has attracted expats from all over the world that live here. So it has a very international flair to it, I guess you'd say. We have friends from Canada, from Europe, from South America. And I really like getting to know people from all over the world. There's an international school here, so we have young families, we have retired people, and then we have a few people like us that are kind of in the middle. It is a beautiful community. We have across from our resort community, across the highway, there is a local poblado, which is a small town. It has local stores, local restaurants, so we do have that local living in Mexico feel right across the highway from us. Also, we are 20 minutes from Playa del Carmen, so we can have the culture and all of that very quickly by just driving 20 minutes up the highway. And 45-minute ferry ride from Playa is Cozumel, which makes it very nice for us to keep in touch with our family and friends. Cruise ships before COVID were stopping at Playa. It was one of the most popular stops for cruise ships. So a couple times a year, we would have friends and family that would visit, and we would go ahead and take the ferry over to Cozumel and meet up with them for a day of snorkeling or shopping or just hanging out and talking. So that really made us feel like we actually saw some of our friends and family more often since we moved to Mexico. Kind of weird, but yes, that's the way it is. So that's a little bit about the community that I live in. I love living here in Puerto Venturas. It's like any small town. It has its pluses and minuses, but the pluses to me far outweigh the minuses. Okay, so once I get up, I kind of digress there a little bit. I just wanted to kind of give a little plug to Puerto Venturas because I do love it, and I wanted to let you know kind of the atmosphere that I'm living in. So once I get up, sometimes I beat the housekeeper. Sometimes she's here before me, depending on how late I slept. But we do have a housekeeper/cook that comes in Monday through Friday. She works for about 3 hours a day, and she does our laundry, she cleans the house, she cooks, she goes to the grocery store. And basically, She'll run errands for us. She'll do basically anything that she can to help us so that we can spend our day working and being productive. And she is awesome. I don't know how we were so blessed to find her, but she makes our life very easy. She also only speaks Spanish, which is wonderful because it makes me have to learn the language. And she will correct me. She's been instructed that she must correct me if I pronounce something wrong and teach me the right way to do it. And because of where we live, there are a lot of people who speak English here, so we're not forced to learn Spanish. But having Sonia is kind of like my accountability that I have to learn Spanish so that I can communicate with her. Okay, so most days she'll make some breakfast if I'm not doing my intermittent fasting. And then I will get started working. I usually start off with journaling. I'll do some journaling. I have a bullet journal. I write down some gratitudes that I'm thankful for and my goals for the day. And I have affirmations that I write. And then I get started with my work. My work consists of creating, and that's usually a project I'm working on, whether it be a book or a course or some big project that I'm working on. It also involves managing my team. We now have a team of contractors, collaborators, and team members that actually do things for us and help us on a daily basis, as well as people who just help us with one-off projects. So managing them, making sure that they know what they're supposed to be doing. And then also my day consists of giving, and that is writing articles, doing Facebook Lives, podcasts, anything that I can do to just put things out there and help others. And then my least favorite, which is business operations. And that's things like handling emails and doing the finances and all of those not so fun things. Meetings. I like meetings when they're with collaborators and people that are fun to meet. I don't always like meetings when they're just like, okay, the boring work meetings. So most days I work until I can't work anymore. And that, again, is one of the things that I'm going to be working on. I make a list of things to do that is much bigger than I could ever accomplish in a day. So I always finish my day feeling like I haven't done enough. If by some off chance I do finish everything, I will find something else to do. And so one of the things I'm going to be working on is setting a stop time and stopping at that time and just knowing that things will eventually get done. I'm going to be working on that. But some things that I do after work, usually we work until maybe 6 o'clock. And then when my mom was here, we would play skip-bo every night. That was our thing. We would play skip-bo and eat dinner. When mom's not here, sometimes we just sit out on the patio and we have a little conversation while looking at the Caribbean. It's a very beautiful view. Or sometimes if we're really just tired, we turn on Netflix and we binge watch something. Pre-COVID, we had our Thursday night palapa sunsets. So that's when a bunch of our friends would all meet under a palapa on the beach on Thursday nights for drinks and snacks and just conversation and just have a nice time visiting with our friends. On Fridays, I try to end at 3 o'clock. Doesn't always work, but I try to end at 3 o'clock. I have a hard stop at 3 o'clock because I have a weekly massage. I have a wonderful girl who comes to the house, and she gives a 90-minute full-body massage. And I won't even tell you how cheap it is because you would be sick to know what little I pay for that. And she's wonderful. She comes to the house every week with her own table. I don't even have to leave my home. And that is supposed to relax me for the weekend. But I usually end up working Saturdays. I've been trying really hard to have Sundays as my day off. I'm calling it Sunday Fun Day and to rest and renew. So this week we did take Sunday off. It was the first time in a couple weeks. I've just been working 7 days a week and really felt like that wasn't working. So yes, I have a lifestyle business and I am a lifestyle entrepreneur, but I need to work a little harder on the lifestyle. So that's what I'm going to be working on. What are you going to be working on? Are you still trying to figure out what you want your lifestyle to look like? Remember, this is just a season. Think about what your lifestyle should look like in the next year, and then in the next 5 years, and in the next 10 years. These can all be different as your children and your family changes, your needs change, your parents get older. Just think about where you want to be in a year, where you want to be in 5 years, and where you want to be in 10 years. And then what do you need to do to get there? What is one step that you can be working on, that you can be taking? Is it finding a work from home position? Is it finding a managerial position? Is it moving up the ladder at your organization? Where do you want to be? What are you going to be working on? My journey is to find more lifestyle in my lifestyle entrepreneurship. I would love to know what you're working on. Remember, we have a Facebook group called the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. I would love for you to go in there and tell me what you're working on. I want to support you in your journey, and by knowing what you're working on, I'll be able to do that better. Okay, that's a wrap for this week's episode. I hope you found it informative and maybe a little inspiring and real, knowing that I'm still on my journey. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm still working on it. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I would be so grateful if you would leave a rating and a review. Reviews really help, and taking the time to write one means the world to me. I read every single one of them. Also, if you have a friend or colleague who you feel like needs to hear this podcast, please share it with them. They will thank you, and I will thank you. Okay, that's a wrap. I look forward to meeting with you again on next week's episode.